Hey Marine, are you tired of getting dropped like a sandbag by Pro Queen? Do you want to try out special equipment that rips people into two pieces and leaves their upper torso desperately crawling to the nearest medkit? How about watching 50 runners walk into a pool of fire and melt into horrific clouds of sulfur not too distant from hell itself? Welcome to PvE Marine. PvE refers to rounds that are run on RMC's second server, Normandy, with rounds happening irregularly whenever the game masters aren't actively fighting off swarms of spiders in real life. The gameplay cycle of PvE is drastically different from standard RMC. While normally you'd be fighting player Manzinos who are highly intelligent and capable of strategizing around their actions, you fight God, who proceeds to spawn 10 runners down an unguarded hallway. I hope you brought a battle buddy, welded a door, or a flamer, because otherwise the bugs are going to swarm you, stun you, and then drag you into a dark room to turn you into a prom. Did I mention that PvE lacks any sort of revival, making death infinitely more consequential? Well, let's get onto the two most common game modes, Whiskey Outpost and Golden Arrow. Keep in mind, there's plenty of variation, as each PvE round is operated by a GM. For all you know, you might join in a Whiskey Outpost round that amounts to a slice of life. Clarification. Whiskey Outpost should be considered a secondary game mode, with Golden Arrow being the primary game mode that is run more. Whiskey Outpost is one of the more predictable game modes. It's a wave defense ran by a game master. Marines will spawn in fully equipped, but additional equipment will usually be stocked in the armory and the racks near the pillboxes. Point items can be bought in the far north barracks area of the outpost. There's also special equipment unique to PvE that you might find, such as the Ithaca and the uranium rifle. We can touch on both of those later. Requisitions is right next to the gear room. Unlike PvP, Requisitions doesn't get the ability to buy their own gear, and as a result, they're forced to ration out gear that they get granted by a game master. Now, moving on to the rest of the outpost. Whiskey Outpost is split into several tiers of defenses. Marines will usually have plenty of time to K these up. When the bugs do arrive, they usually do so in large batches that will progressively worsen and force you to fall back. AI Xenos, unlike human ones, have absolutely no fear of death. They'll ignore any fires that you plant underneath them, so packing HIDP might be better than HEDP. Explosives also do work, as they'll clump up much more than real players. Generally, when defending, you want to focus on maximizing your coverage. Marines should form firing lines that intersect, allowing them to maximize damage. Having a fallback line is also mandatory, as while Marines will generally put down any waves, they're still capable of being overwhelmed. There will also be plenty of lulls in the combat, which grant you opportunities to put up fresh cades, so don't worry about a temporary fallback. Generally, it's also a good idea to ensure that there's at least one radio pack per squad. Firstly, a game master might strike down your ability to do radio on comms. Secondly, it's greatly useful for coordinating strikes with mortars back at the outpost, whose napalm can win battles. Whiskey Outpost rounds will usually last about an hour, assuming the Marines hold. You may hear an announcement that evacuation has arrived, and when you do, tail it out of there. Golden Arrow is a sister game mode of Whiskey Outpost, and it ratchets up the HRP aspects of PvE. While Whiskey Outpost, you might be able to fill 4 squads worth of Marines, Golden Arrow is defined by having a very small contingent of elite Marines which will be focused on. They're effectively the protagonists of the round, carving out the story. They also get better access to skills, and plenty of handy equipment, but they get next to no attachments. All of these factors mean that coordinating and cooperating with your team is critical to success, even more so than on a Whiskey Outpost. The fun also isn't strictly limited to the Marines, though. Very often, game masters can spawn in props. How these are selected varies round from round. One day it could be a lottery, and another day it could be something much more casual, such as asking politely. Props have the purpose of advancing the story. Sometimes they're dead bodies thrown about to indicate devastation in the colony, and other times, props might be fully living and breathing people who the Marines could talk to, as well as fight with, or against. For example, a game master might spawn in this small team of colonist props, whose sole purpose is to hold out in a location as long as possible before promptly dying. This creates a unique set piece that the Marines might come across. A prop of more agency might be an SBP squad, who's been sent in to help with the Marines, or alternatively, in Golden Arrow scenarios, which rely less on, or don't rely on Xenos at all, you'll see a large amount of players dumped into a map to cover enemy combatants, such as that one time Marines were sent in to crush a riot. All in all, Golden Arrow is like a constantly shifting chameleon. One day, you might be burning bugs, and the other, you might be walking over shattered teeth and broken bones. The best way to know what you're getting into is to check the PvE announcements and out-of-character chat before a round starts, as they'll typically get you an idea of what'll happen that day. PvE has two main additions to the weapons roster: the Ithaca, which is most comparable to the M42A2 shotgun, and the M49A6, which is analogous to the M4 SPR rifle. The Ithaca, in exchange for loading only 5 shotgun shells, boasts the ability to stun with individual pellets, which is combined with having more pellets per shot. This makes the weapon capable of pumping out obscene amounts of damage, doing up to 400 in a point-blank hit. This makes the weapon capable of one-shotting people in B12 body armor, or instantly killing a PvE drone. The shotgun can also knock back opponents, even if it doesn't stun them, which all in all makes it a great tool. The M49A6 seems more exciting than it actually is right now. You'll see that it shoots depleted uranium rounds, and you'll think that it's capable of devastation, only to realize that it doesn't do that much more damage than your average battle rifle. It does appreciate having 30-round magazines instead of 25 rounds though, and even if it's not too crazy, depleted uranium rounds can still 3-shot an armored target. Either way, keep a tab on it, as if RMC 14 brings it up to parity with its CM13 counterpart, it'll be much more lethal. PvE also has plenty of weapons that you'd recognize from PvP. Survivor or ERT guns, for example, might make an appearance, such as during a colony fall or some goodies that you might find during your mission. For our last section, we're just going to cover some general PvE tips. Firstly, crossfires are much more deadly in PvE. While a Xeno could slash you a couple of times and you'll be able to get away with it, a few bullets from a friendly gun or a badly placed grenade can kill you. One of the better ways to avoid crossfires is to crawl. While this is less of a good idea in PvP, where players could exploit this, the AI bugs can't really do that. So, while you're on the ground, bullets will whiz over you and you get to safety. Gates are also much more useful, as Xenos will often face bash into them instead of trying to find alternative flanking routes. You'll often find plenty of sources of metal and sandbags, and even wooden barricades can do much more work in PvE. Combine that with some fire and you'll practically be impenetrable. Welding is also much more useful, as AI Xenos can't really acid doors open. As a reminder, make sure to weld both sides of double doors or it's not going to work. Attachments are usually scarce in PvE, and doubly so in Golden Arrow. While no attachments are objectively worse, you might want to shift what you pack. On Whiskey Outpost, for example, you don't benefit as much from bringing a bayonet, as you won't be clearing weeds as often due to the perpetual defense that you have. Long barrels, however, might get you some valuable range off the Xenos. Similarly, loadouts that might be unusual in PvP might work fine in PvE. In Golden Arrow, you might want to toss your satchel out and replace it with a machete, as other people might have taken the limited radio packs or holsters. My standard Golden Arrow flamer loadout usually just takes one, and I won't grab stuff from the ground side anyway, so there's no reason to take a bag. Finally, roleplay is also a massive part of PvE. With it being a relatively less stressful difficulty, you're deeply encouraged to flesh your character out. Roleplay is also much more strictly enforced, as PvE is classified as high roleplay instead of medium roleplay. Even if you don't want to write up an entire plot, noting down something like your character's place of origin, their reason for joining the UNMC, and at least one hobby, could make your character a lot more interesting for people to roleplay with. Hey viewer, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for watching the video. I tried to put a lot of effort into it. If you want more RMC videos in the future, I do advise that you subscribe, as I'll be making plenty of those things. I also post other stuff that you might watch or not watch. I hope you have a good day, and thank you again for watching.